So now what we're getting ready to do is we're gonna start squaring the greenhouse. To do that, we need to install the 4 corner posts. And in doing that on a high sidewall house, you really have 3 options. You're gonna have the ground stake driver that we have here that we include in the kit. And you can use this just with a regular sledgehammer. Another option that you've got is a T-post driver if you have one of those. And the third option is one that we really like and we learned from Kevin and Sarah is the gas-powered or pneumatic post driver. It's really gonna save your back here and speed up the process if you have access to it. If not, the first 2 are perfectly fine. It's just gonna take a little more sweat equity here. So now let's talk a little bit about site prep. So you have a lot of different options when it comes to this. You can build it basically to the lay of the land, which means that if you have a pretty level ground like what we have here today, then you can lay the posts out and you're just gonna drive them to the lay of the land and level off of that. If you don't and you need to level an area, then you might have to excavate a little bit to get that perfectly level if you're wanting to build on that. If you're doing concrete or something like that, you're gonna be building to a level platform. A good example of that is what Mr. Danny and Miss Wanda did down at Deep South Homestead. We're gonna put a link right here so you can go check out their install. So now that we've got the decision on how we're gonna build, today's to the lay of the land, we've already gone ahead and installed our ground cover here. So you have a lot of options for how you can prep here. Ground cover is a great option. Kevin and Sarah are gonna be doing raised beds inside of this house. It's a great option for a weed barrier here. Other options are you could be putting gravel down, you could pour concrete in it, you could put mulch. Really, the sky's the limit when it comes to that. A couple other notes that we want to mention here is as you're starting this process, if you plan on growing in the ground, let's not till before we get the greenhouse installed. That's going to make it really difficult, if not impossible, to get the ground stakes to stay in the ground the way that you want them to during the installation process. So let's talk a little bit about something that's very important, and you need to take some time to do this right when you're starting your project, and that's squaring your greenhouse. For today's project, we've got this real nice fence line that we're gonna be using to pull off of to get our measurements for our first 2 ground stakes. So we've gone ahead and done that, we've driven them in. If you're gonna be doing this installation in the middle of a field, I mean, you don't really have to worry about that part. Essentially what you're gonna do is you're gonna find your first location for your first ground stake. We're installing a 20 by 60 like we said. So then we're gonna take our tape measure, we're gonna run 20 feet across the way to where we're gonna mark our second ground stake. From there, we're gonna run long tape measures going this way to get the length of the house. It's a 60-foot house to mark this location. After that, we have diagonal tapes. We're gonna be doing a little math here. So we're going back to high school algebra with Pythagoras' theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Don't worry, you don't have to do the math. We've already done it for you. So basically in all your instructions, you're just gonna go down the line, find what size house you have and find out what your diagonal needs to be. For a 20 by 60 today, we've done 63 feet 3 inches to get that diagonal to make sure that as we put in our 3rd and 4th posts, that they're actually square as we're doing this process. So no matter which method you choose to drive your ground stakes, you're gonna be doing this on every single pole, and that's making sure it's plumb as you're driving it in. So we just have 2 little bullet levels that are magnetic that we slap on either side of the pole, and you're just gonna have someone apply tension to it until you can get both of the bubbles in the middle of the line. Now, with this current install, we run into a little bit of problem that you might run into during yours as well, and that's we've hit a little bit of rock. And we can't get the ground stake driven the full 24 inches all the way into the ground. So we're about to break out the gas-powered driver, see if we can hit that depth. If you cannot hit that depth for some reason because you've hit a boulder on, let's say, more than 15% of your ground stakes that you're driving, then you're gonna have to use concrete to secure that ground stake. If it's fewer than that 15% of your ground stakes, well then you're fine because the structure is supporting it as a whole, and as long as you're able to get it in the ground most of the way, we're about 4 to 5 inches shy here, you're still gonna be fine. It's fully supported there. So, okay, now that we're gonna do that, let's go ahead and knock this thing out. Michael, you wanna come over and let's show them how to use the gas-powered driver here. All right, so now we have our 4 corner posts in, and the next step, with the magic of television, we've got our string done. So basically what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna run just a tight line, and this is gonna serve as a guide as we're going to install down the line the rest of our ground stakes. As you're setting up your string line, you wanna make sure that it is run to the outside of the pipe on all 4 corners, because that's gonna give you the proper alignment. So once we have it here, we're gonna put another one up higher. And then instead of having to worry about all 4 directions to make sure that our ground stakes are plumb, we're just gonna be going left to right instead of front and back also. Now that we have all 4 ground stakes in and the string in, the next step's gonna be that we have gone down, we've run a tape measure from the outside of this corner post all the way to the length of the greenhouse to the other ground stake. And then we're gonna come every 4 feet. Our houses are on 4-foot centers, and we're gonna make a mark so that we know where to go ahead and drive the next ground stakes. So we've done that with a can of spray paint, and then we're gonna follow back through with our butane torch to go ahead and burn a small hole and seal the ground cover fabric. So then we're ready to come back and drive our ground stakes in the next step. We just got all the ground stakes in, and as you can see, we've got them lined up perfect. So the next step in this whole process is we've got a line at 7.5 foot high because it's a high sidewall house. And then we're gonna take a Sawzall after we mark that mark with a Sharpie, trim them all level all the way down, all the way around the house.